Hi everyone, and welcome back to Clark Trending. If you love Caitlin Clark, drop CC 100% love in the comments right now. I need you to watch this one all the way through because what I'm about to break down is something that has been building quietly for weeks, and it just cracked wide open after Thursday night's loss in Dallas. We are talking about Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever's roster construction, Stephanie White's position inside that franchise, and the warning signs that nobody seems to be connecting. So, buckle up. Before we get into it, real quick, if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that button. I checked the numbers, and about 90% of the people watching this channel regularly still haven't subscribed. So, if you enjoy what we do here, help us out. It takes 1 second. Alright, let's go. So, Thursday night in Dallas, the Fever lose 91-85 to a Wings team that has won just 4 of its last 12 games. Kelsey Mitchell was absolutely magnificent, scoring 37 points and setting the Wnba record with her 21st consecutive game of 20 or more points, passing A'ja Wilson's previous mark. And here is what should concern you. Caitlin Clark had 10 points and 9 assists on a night where she shot terribly, going a combined 9 of 31 from the field alongside Paige Bueckers. The Fever failed to set a franchise record for wins, stalling at 24. But that is not the story. The story is what Clark said afterward, and what she very deliberately chose not to say. When reporters asked Clark about the loss, she kept it measured. She praised Mitchell, praised the team's fight, and said, and I quote, "We know, what we need to be better at. We know where we have to improve. And it's on all of us, but it's also on the people whose job it is to put us in the best position." Now, rewind that. Read it again. The people whose job it is to put us in the best position. She did not say coaching staff. She did not say front office. She used the vaguest possible language that covers both. And when you've watched Caitlin Clark as closely as I have, you know that her vague moments are her loudest moments. Now, let's rewind for a second. This did not come out of nowhere. Go back to late July when Indy Star's Brian Hintzen published a detailed breakdown of the Fever's trade deadline situation. He laid it out plainly. The Fever had $6,655 in available cap space. That is not a typo. $6,000. They needed front court help with Aliyah Boston nursing a nagging right lower leg injury. They needed wing depth beyond Sophie Cunningham. And what did they do at the August 2nd deadline? Nothing. Not a single move. Hintzen wrote that Fever coach Stephanie White deferred to general manager Wnba when asked about deadline activity. And that brings us to the real story here. Because who exactly is making decisions inside this building? Think about the last 3 months. In late May, Clark and White had a sideline spat that generated national headlines. Clark shut down speculation afterwards saying, "I ride for Steph." In early June, Clark was ruled out of a game against Portland with a back issue that appeared on 0 injury reports until 100 minutes before tip-off. When Clark addressed it, she was visibly frustrated, detailing her entire timeline down to the minute, and even what she ate for breakfast, telling reporters, "One of the most important people in my life found out 40 minutes before you guys. So, that's what my last 2 days looked like." The league issued a formal warning to Indiana over the injury reporting incident. Then came the Cunningham-Carrington flagrant foul debacle in August. White said she didn't see the replay. Fans booed her at the next home game. Indiana's lieutenant governor called for her firing on social media. White pounded the table and told critics to go to hell. Clark defended her coach publicly, saying, "That's my head coach, and we are going to ride for her." But take note of what Clark chose not to do. She did not say White handled it correctly. She said, quote, "I hated that our fans booed, to be honest. She redirected the loyalty without ever validating the decision that caused the controversy. That is the kind of careful language that tells you someone is thinking 3 moves ahead. And that brings us to the real question nobody is asking. If Clark publicly defends her coach every single time, why does the same pattern keep repeating? If the locker room is as united as they keep insisting, why has there been a new crisis every 3 weeks since May? Now, if you're enjoying this breakdown, drop a comment telling me what you think Clark should do. Should she stay quiet, or should she push harder? I genuinely want to hear your take. Okay, let me put my analyst hat on for a second and really break this down for you. Because the real story is not what happened in Dallas. The real story is why it happened and what it reveals. Follow the money. The Indiana Fever are first in the Eastern Conference at 24-13. They have the league's most marketable player, a historically elite offense, and a legitimate championship window opening right now. They also have a front court being held together with tape while their franchise center battles a recurring leg injury, virtually zero cap flexibility, and a head coach who has been the center of 3 separate controversies in 3 months. That is not a sustainable structure. Here is what nobody is connecting. Clark's frustration is not about one loss in Dallas. It is about a pattern. The Fever built their offense around pace and transition. Stephanie White herself said after the Valkyries game, "If we don't get stops, they get to set their defense." But the roster lacks the defensive length and front court depth to sustain that identity in a 7-game playoff series against Minnesota or Las Vegas. The offense is elite. The construction around it is incomplete. Clark knows this. She sees it every night. Now, some people might say Clark has no right to criticize because they are 24-13 and first in the East. Here is why that does not hold up. 24 wins and a first-round exit produces the same legacy as 14 wins. This is a franchise that has not won a title since 2012. Clark's window is now. The Fever's big 3 of Clark, Mitchell, and Boston are all in their prime simultaneously for maybe 2 or 3 more seasons. Every month without roster improvement is a month of that window closing. Compare this to what we have seen in other leagues. When LeBron James was in his first stint with Cleveland, the Cavaliers consistently failed to surround him with adequate supporting pieces despite his individual brilliance. He was diplomatic publicly for years. And then he left. Now, I am not saying Clark is going to demand a trade. But I am saying that when a generational talent starts using phrases like, "the people whose job it is to put us in the best position," that language is a signal. It is not a complaint. It is a timestamp. She is establishing a public record. If I had to predict what happens next, here are the 3 scenarios. Scenario 1. The Fever make an aggressive move in the offseason, add a legitimate defensive forward, and this entire tension evaporates. Likelihood, moderate. Scenario 2. They run it back with minor tweaks. Clark stays publicly supportive, but privately escalates through her representatives. And we have this exact conversation again next August with higher stakes. Likelihood, highest. Scenario 3. Something breaks. A playoff loss exposes the gap. White takes the fall, and the franchise restructures its entire decision-making hierarchy around what Clark needs. Likelihood, low now, but rising with every loss like Thursday's. The key domino is the FIBA World Cup window coming in September. Clark, Boston, and Bucas are all expected on the US roster. That means the Fever's front office has several weeks where the public spotlight shifts away from Indiana and toward national team basketball. What they do in that quiet window will tell you everything about whether they heard what Clark has been saying since May. So, here is where I will leave you. Caitlin Clark is 24 years old, averaging nearly 22 points and 8 assists per game, and carrying a franchise on her back towards something historic. She has defended her coach publicly every single time she has been asked. She has never once broken ranks. But the distance between what she says and what she means has been shrinking all summer. And Thursday night in Dallas, it got very, very small. The Fever have the star. The Fever have the audience. The question that keeps growing louder is whether the Fever have the infrastructure. And if they don't build it soon, someone else will. I'll see you in the next one.